The Lost Signal is a brand new weapon type introduced with the final shape called Area of Denial. It's a grenade launcher frame with something hidden about it that seems to link with Prismatic's Transcendence feature. So I'm going to showcase what that is and talk about some perks to go for because this thing's a blast. Now, people have been comparing this to Witherhoard because they shoot out this pool of damage over time. And while that part of it is true, this one behaves a bit differently. For instance, the Lost Signal splits into 5 different pools, allowing you to cover a lot more ground. And each pool will hit targets with 22 ticks of damage. Something very important I learned in my testing was that they don't stack. So if you shoot all 5 into one spot, you're going to get 5 hits from the 5 shots, but then still a total of 22 damage ticks over time. Because of this, the real sauce comes from spreading them out and getting over 100 ticks of damage in a crowd of enemies. You can almost think of it as dragging a fusion rifle across a crowd, but better. Another funny thing I learned is that they seem to have a defined range, like they'll literally stop mid-air, and I was enjoying hitting Grims with this thing. Let's talk about that hidden thing that I mentioned in the beginning though, because what surprised me was the ridiculous amount of Transcendence energy it gives. Just look at this clip and pay attention to the darkness bar. I don't know any other gun that can do this. Maybe when there's a tether involved or a jolting grenade that damages a boatload of enemies all at once, but those are pretty specific. I tried adding up the damage totals and comparing that to things, and so far I haven't found an exact link. Maybe it's a unique thing like how trace rifles and special ammo sidearms have some primary ammo properties. Sometimes Bungie mixes things intentionally. Maybe it's combining the origin trait of radial area transposer on this type of weapon because rapid final blows cause them to explode into more radiolarian fluid. Heck, it could just be giving the amount a regular GL would do, but for each tick in this case. I don't know for sure, I gotta do more testing, but I wanted to show you this because it makes it really fun to use on prismatic builds. So let's jump into the perks, giving you the best ways to set up for success because this is craftable, and because of that, I'll also show you where you can get it at the end. Right off the bat, you've got your first 2 columns, right? The barrel and magazine. Because this weapon maxes out the blast radius stat to 100 by default, you basically always want to go for the quick launch perk here. That'll boost your velocity and handling. If you have other barrels on yours, don't worry, it's completely fine, but when it comes time to crafting it, you're going to want to go with quick launch. For the second column, you only have 2 options, and again, don't worry about what you get, but when you go to craft one, I recommend high velocity rounds. Now jumping into the third and fourth columns, let's break those perks down. Right off the rip, in the third column, some great options are Lead from Gold and auto-loading holster. Lead from Gold allows you to basically cheat the ammo economy by giving yourself special ammo every time you pick up heavy. Notice here that when I run over this heavy brick, it grants me special ammo to my Lead from Gold gun. It makes running out of ammo incredibly rare, and even if you're someone who likes to run 2 special weapons, I know Bungie made this perk give half the amount now to the special with Lead from Gold on it, but it's still great, and from my experience, you're not really just sitting there shooting it over and over, so yes, you can run double special with this thing. Now what about auto-loading holster? I lean towards this one the most. Every time you stow the gun away, after about 2.5 seconds, you're going to hear a little audio cue signaling that it's been reloaded. This is great for damage over time weapons because it lets you fire it off and then go fight somewhere else, knowing that your quote-unquote DOT gun will be ready for you the next time you need it. Some of the other options in this column can still be really fun though. If you wanted to use this thing like a primary in lower level content, you could go with Feeding Frenzy because it gives a significant reload multiplier. I use the word multiplier because even if you were to max out your reload stat to 100, it still gets faster. You're not going to reach 100 on this thing, but I thought some folks might learn from this. Here's a commemoration with 100 reload, getting it done in about 4 seconds. The same commemoration with 5 stacks of Feeding Frenzy now gets it down to roughly 3 seconds. So multiplier perks are great to help you break stat barriers. Moving on though, let's talk about a brand new perk in the final shape called Strategist. It essentially turns your weapon kills into charging your class ability. You get around 10% per kill depending on whether you've enhanced the perk or not. Shooting it into a crowd means very quick recharge rates, and combining that with the Transcendence meter thing that I showed you earlier makes for some insane synergies. In fact, it'd be a perfect pairing with the new Titan exotic hazardous propulsion that I've showcased in a video recently. The other perks in this column, Quick Draw and Threat Detector, I suppose I could see myself using them in PvP, but it's not really necessary here in PvE. Onto the fourth column, we've got some more options that are a lot of fun, and it's more so going to depend on your playstyle, so I'm going to give you the input you need to help you decide. Demolitionist is pretty much always a good pick. Every kill you get with this thing will just give you around 10% of your grenade energy back. Pairing that with Strategist, you're getting a ton of ability energy in general. And what people seem to forget is that throwing a grenade also reloads a weapon that has Demolitionist, so you can get multiple shots out quickly, especially if you're on a build that has a lot of grenade spam worked into it. Unrelenting is another good one that was made very strong a couple of years ago. It was kind of a joke for a while until the Witch Queen expansion changed it, and now after killing 3 minor enemies, like even a tiny group of thralls inside of a 5-second window will give you 70 health. Since you tend to shoot this into crowds of enemies, that's a third of your health back pretty often. Another great option is One for All. This one gives you a 35% damage buff after hitting 3 separate enemies. Again, since you're using it on groups, it fits perfectly, and since typical enemy spawns in Destiny tend to have some weaker units around a slightly beefier one, splashing the lost signal into that area will tag the 3 separate adds that you need to proc it, and then your damage ticks ramp up for the beefier target. For a single target situation, I really like Vorpal Weapon. It's a smaller damage buff at 15% compared to One for All, but it can be more reliable since it's just guaranteed to be active when you need it. I was literally just watching a video by another creator named Selfu the other day, and I saw the perfect example of it on barrier champs while Radiant. Now the last 3 perks in this column, Wellspring, High Ground, and Reverberation, all serve their purposes on other weapons quite well, but if you're chasing rolls or crafting this thing, I recommend using the ones that I've gone through. And with all of that info across the choices, I do have some combos to enjoy the most. Number 1 would be Auto-Loading Holster and Vorpal Weapon. It's great for general purpose because it makes passive gameplay very chill while still helping out on beefier targets or even champions like I just showed you. Another fun combo is Feeding Frenzy and One for All. This is basically if you're just spraying this thing like a primary weapon. Some honorable mentions would be Lead from Gold plus Unrelenting or Demolitionist. It really depends on the activity or your playstyle, whether or not you're wanting to get those chunks of health back or just constantly get more grenades. Either way, all of these rolls can be a lot of fun, especially when you're enjoying your Transcendence meter just skyrocketing. And finally, how the heck do you get this thing or be able to craft it? The first one you might recall is from Season Rank 20 on the free track of the Season Pass. Another one is from the Seasonal Quest line. That starts out with the name of Familiar Voice, which eventually turns into a Rising Chorus, but honestly, just playing the Seasonal Quest line will reward you with one. Once you've had a copy of the Lost Signal on your account, you'll be able to focus for it at the Helm. After getting 5 red borders of it, you're going to be able to unlock the crafting pattern and go for what fits your style the best. Which in this case, if you're a Titan looking for a build, the video thumbnail right here explains some of the most fun I've ever had on Prismatic Titan, and I walk you through their brand new exotic and exactly how to get it going. So click on that to watch it next.